welcome to 1923 Main Street.
Home of the Daddy-Daughter Disney Travel Podcast. We are your hosts.
I am Mike Bellabraddock.
And I'm Amelia Bellabraddock. And now, it's transportation time. Here are some of the tips and tricks on how to get all over Walt Disney World the fastest.
All right, we are doing a transportation episode. Or, as I like to call it, Walt Disney World Transportation, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Here we go.
Yeah. So, whether you
I told
are
not to say that.
a first-time visitor, this will help you understand all the transportation options, or whether you're a seasoned transportation professional at Disney World.
Where the best transportation is and which transportation to take.
And whether or not you agree with how we feel about all these transportation methods.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing, this is Walt Disney World Resort, and I don't even think we could do this episode for Disneyland because it's so compact, assuming you're staying on site, that there really is no need for transportation there, which is why Mommy loves it so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I mean, I read that often.
And little Amelia, who had to walk.
Yes, you do have to walk, but I love walking. Which is one of the transportation methods we'll talk about today.
Yes.
Even the monorail at Disneyland really is sort of a ride. I don't consider that transportation at all.
I mean, we don't really go on it at all.
Yeah, I mean, maybe once or twice. I mean, the last time I went, I hadn't been on it in so long that I thought, hey, I want to record their version of Please Stand Clear of the Doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Okay.
And so I get on the Disneyland monorail. I don't think you were with me this time. And it's the old manually closed doors, just like the old original ones were at Walt Disney World. And I sat there with my phone, and there was nothing. There was no announcement at all on that one.
You see, I'm good at getting recordings, and also you did that wrong, so I'm just going to play this so they know how it really sounds.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Not too bad.
I mean, you hear people in the background, but...
Yes. My recording of it is much cleaner. Much cleaner.
Sure, we'll go with that.
After I had to stop you from talking several times. Anyway,
no, you
Walt Disney World, 43 square miles. Huge place.
Wow, that's pretty big.
Right? It's pretty big. So I'm going to start by saying that if you're a first-timer going there, you will appreciate the fact that, I will say, in fairness, they do have an amazing transportation network at Walt Disney World Resort. You know, it rivals, if not outdoes, many big cities of that same size.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many different options as well.
There are so many. So let's just roll through. I'm going to should start with the Magical Express. Now, we don't take that, but if you do, and I know a lot of people do.
And all that does is go from the hotels to the airport.
Yeah, from the airport, you can, but that is free transportation.
Yes,
so.
But it's not like it takes you to any parks, water parks, Disney Springs.
But it's something that's not available in California either. So it's a good. But on site, there are many, many ways to get around depending on where you're staying. There are monorails,
buses,
boats,
ferries,
walking,
cars,
Uber and Lyft,
minivans,
and most recently, the SkyLiner. So lots and lots of ways to get around. And this is very important when you're planning reservations, dining, shows, even parks, getting from one place to another.
And knowing how long it's going to take.
That is the ultimate key. And, you know, we talked on a previous episode, and, you know, a lot of our listeners are frequent travelers as we are to Walt Disney World. So even when you know that something should take a certain amount of time,
it doesn't always.
It doesn't always, especially when you have to use two of these methods.
That's true.
So, what is your favorite transportation out of all of these? Like, everything else aside, what do you like the most? Which of these?
The buses.
No, come on, seriously. I know that's not true, which we'll get into.
The Disney monorails.
Yeah, I think the monorail, well, first of all, I'll say walking is my favorite.
And I'll say walking is close last.
And I like it, it's reliable. After major fireworks or nighttime events or things like that, you can just walk past the crowds.
That's the only time I like it.
That is why I like staying at the walkable Disney deluxe resorts whenever possible.
That's the one good part.
Whether it's the Epcot resorts or the Magic Kingdom
Although I don't
resorts.
like the waking up in the morning. All right, we're going to walk around Magic Kingdom and then let's go for a walk first to get there.
Yeah, but it's fun.
Debatable.
But walking aside, I'll agree. I like the monorails. And, I'm going to also put a caveat here at the beginning before I really get into giving my true feelings about some of these things. Any electrical transportation is going to break down, right?
Yeah.
There's no electrical motorized vehicle anywhere in the world that's not going to break down. So everything will break down from time to time, especially when you're moving, hundreds of millions of guests in Florida heat.
Daily.
So things break down. I think, I can't even remember the attendance of Magic Kingdom, 20 million, something like that.
Yeah.
But so things do break down.
Rides break down.
It's how they react when they break down. Like if people, frequent travelers, the monorail breaks down. It's all over Twitter. But you know what? They're not going to run nonstop forever without ever breaking.
Yeah.
Things break.
And the monorail,
even when you maintain them.
Yeah, and especially considering how old it is, does run quite well.
Yeah, so
For
I
its age
do.
and the amount
I
of
love the
time it
monorail,
runs. And I love the monorail for so many reasons. I mean, it's classic. It's fun. When I was younger, it was literally, like you said, a ride.
It's air
For
conditioned.
me. Yeah. It's one of the great things about it. The air conditioning. And not like freezing cold either.
And if you are a stroller family or a scooter person or family, monorail access is pretty quick. I mean, you can get a scooter even. All they do is flip down the ramp.
And
on
some
and
of
off
their
the monorail.
transportations are not very scooter friendly
or
stroller friendly.
Which we'll get into. Exactly. So these are important things to know. So monorail, that's one thing to consider. If you're planning your trip, monorail resorts, you don't need to break down your stroller, and scooters can get on and off fairly quickly. You may have to go to a certain car, but they're good for that. My next favorite are the boats. Do you like the boats?
Well, it depends. I like the Grand One yacht.
No, I'm talking about so the boat launches or water launch or water taxi. They're called all three. Those are the Magic Kingdom resort area boats. They're all the original ones. There's the two larger ones that go from over by Fort Wilderness and Wilderness Lodge, the enclosed ones, and then all the regular boat launches in that area. The Epcot area has the friendships.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind them. I do prefer to take like an air-conditioned vehicle because it's very hot in Florida and the boats are outside. And I guess it is on the water, so it's sort of cool. I like the boats. I just prefer an air-conditioned.
I like the boats because you have a nice view. And even the
not all
Sasagula River
air-conditioned
Cruise, I'll just
vehicles.
mention those last, which go from Port Orleans and Saratoga and Okie West to get to Disney Springs, those boats. So those are good boats too.
I'm saying I am talking about like the little boats that just have like little roof.
Yeah, those are the original ones.
originals.
So those are the original water taxis on Seven Seas Laguna Bay.
Yeah, and
Lake.
I like them because again they have history and culture, and I love how they're running so smoothly, especially considering their age.
Yeah, they're almost 50 years old. And
Really?
Yeah, they're original. And it's
That's
funny for
actually
me to
kinda
think I
cool.
was a little kid riding on those in 1970s, and they're still going. So I love those boats. Generally, they're pretty good. If they get behind, it can be a bit of a problem, as is the case with anything. The monorails tend to be a little bit more reliable, and you can at least you can see and make a decision if one's coming or not. But of course, they break down too. The ferry, I was actually going to say I've never been on a ferry, but that's not true.
That's not true.
You've never been on a ferry.
Yeah, I've never been
because
on
we
a
don't
ferry.
need to. But in the 70s, when we were kids, we used to ride, because we would go and stay on site for 3 weeks at a time sometimes. So we would ride the ferry for fun. Just not even go to the Magic Kingdom, just get on the ferry. But I don't think
Really?
I have been on the ferry since probably the mid-70s. They're named after famous Walt Disney Imagineers or Walt Disney personnel. And the ferry boats take you from the Magic Kingdom parking lot to the Magic Kingdom.
We are not getting a Mike Bella Braddock ferry in our backyard, Disney.
In Disney Resort North?
We're not
We
doing
don't
that.
require a ferry.
Well,
But
yeah.
now you're giving me ideas.
Now we're not. We're not going to name it after you if we do get one.
So there's monorails, boats, ferries, buses, Disney buses. All right.
Here we go.
Let
The only thing I like worse than walking.
me understand that.
That didn't come out right.
Yeah, but so
The
in
only
other words,
thing-
buses and walking are your bottom two.
Yeah.
Buses are sort of a
Buses,
necessary evil.
Buses.
So again, I try to put myself in the shoes of someone going for the first time, especially if you're not at a deluxe resort where you rely on the buses
You can't do that very well.
more than any other resorts. It's like values. You're pretty much on a bus everywhere. So the fact that they do have such a huge bus network is good, right? It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But you
and
know,
it's sort of the way that they built the buses or that they maintain them. They are not very easy to get on a scooter or even a stroller. We had problems with it. And it's not the scooter's fault. It's not their fault. It has nothing to do with them.
beep, beep.
The Disney buses
When I
are
hear
not
that
built
sound.
for scooters
Yeah.
or strollers even. I remember when I was little, it took forever. I had to get out and walk.
Yeah, so if you have a scooter,
Get out.
First of all, if you have a stroller on a bus, you're going to have to break it down. So here's another thing. I mean, for that reason, I never, people
Oh,
are
you also have to
bringing
break
these,
it down on boats too.
yeah, and boats. But good point. Scooters, forget it for boats. Well, except for the big boats, those two from Magic
Yes.
Kingdom and Wilderness Lodge. But where was I going? Yes. For you, I never brought one of these gigantic strollers. People bring these huge strollers, and yeah, you can store stuff, but they are also, just consider, a pain. So I remember going out to Walmart and buying a $9.99 on sale umbrella stroller. Now, we only had one child, being you.
$9.99.
$10.
$10.
That stroller went to Disney World 20 times.
That was $10.
20 weeks, not 20 times, like probably 100 park visits or more. More than that. Much more than that.
$10?
That $10 stroller, but it folded up in like 1 second into a super small, but it still held a lot. So as one kid, we were able to do that. But just consider the size of your stroller. If you have not
This
been
is a
before,
shock to me.
you're going to be folding this thing up on buses. But scooters on buses, the buses, they have to lower, flip
They
it.
don't accommodate
it's quite a
well.
long time. It just takes time. So if you are reliant on buses or have an option to do something else and you're in a hurry, 1 or 2 scooters on your stop is going to kill your time. So
And I feel bad for people in scooters too who have to take the buses. 'Cause
at least they
it
have
ta-
that option, right?
Yeah, but it does take longer for them too. If they're in a rush, like imagine how that would feel.
Yeah, but you know what? If you're on a scooter and you're going to appreciate that happens. But
Yeah, of
but if you
course.
are
You have to do it,
have a
but-
reservation or something, I remember that time we were trying to make the fireworks.
Oh, here
And yeah, take some other form of transportation if you can. So the buses, they just seem to get backed up. They're really the bane of my existence. I really do not like Disney buses
Yeah.
and will avoid them at all costs forever.
And it's very frustrating because they have the times and then
So
they change.
they just added those signs a few
Yeah.
years ago. So
And
at
they
each resort
change.
hotel, they have the electronic signs that tell you how long to the next bus will be to wherever you're going. But you start playing that game, it'll say, I'm at the Polynesian, it'll say Animal Kingdom bus arriving in 9 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes. Going, okay. So this bus is and then what inevitably happens
It's like
as you can
3
appreciate,
Hollywood buses.
3 of them, every other bus comes but yours. And when yours comes, 4 of them come in a row, or 3 or 2 of them come in a row. So, Disney buses are not perfect. They're subject probably more to anything else than the heat. There's traffic. They just get caught up in a lot of things.
And they're probably some of the most used transportation too.
Yeah, it's a heavy network those buses are using. So it's great to have. It's good they do have them. However, if you can take another method, I wouldn't just ride a bus for fun. Like you used to ride the monorail for fun. So did I when I was a kid. I don't think you'd get on a Disney bus just for fun.
I have a hidden transportation gem that I just thought of
Okay, let's
regarding
throw it on me.
buses and monorails. The transportation cards.
Oh, good one. Why don't you talk about those?
So basically, if you're on, they give them out on buses and monorails. I'm not sure about boats.
Yeah, I don't know.
They
about
might.
boats.
You can ask the captains.
Definitely buses and monorails.
So basically, what you do is you go to the driver at the front of whatever certain transportation you're on, and you can ask for these cards. And
They're
they'll-
like collectible,
yeah.
like playing cards,
and
trading
they'll-
cards, I mean.
And they'll have like this bus on them, and it has like a little Mickey design, and they're really cool. They're like shiny, and they have a little description on the
Yeah,
back.
about the vehicles.
Yeah.
You should give a shout out to Uncle Randy right
Yes.
now. If you're listening, Uncle Randy, because you gave your collection to Amelia and you had some good
Ta-da.
ones in there. Buses and monorails.
Yeah, so now I'm collecting. I'm going to keep the collection going. And I actually didn't even realize that until last year or the year before, I think.
Yeah, so definitely
No,
if
you
you
told me.
Well, I was going to say if you have kids, but even if you want them for yourself,
Yeah.
be sure. Monorails and buses, ask for those collector cards. They may not always have them, but a lot, so it's hit and
And
miss.
it
But when
is
you get them, they're cool little keepsakes and they're free. So that's an excellent little tip, Amelia. Good
Yeah.
hidden gem.
Yeah, they're really fun to collect too, because then there's a few of the same ones. And I don't think I have any of the same.
You may have one or two traders. I'm not sure. We'll have to take a look at those after this show.
Yeah.
I was just sorting them the other day along with our Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom cards.
Yes.
All right. Walking. I already talked about that. One of my favorite methods of transportation. I love being able to walk. You know, if I
I'm a
can
lazy
walk, it's
person,
the
so.
most reliable source of transportation there is at Walt Disney World.
Yes,
So
Daddy,
the-
you're going to walk 40 miles all around
No,
it.
but the walkable resorts, you know, I'll lean towards those anytime. And this
Yes.
is also another reason why Animal Kingdom is my least favorite.
They're going to
deluxe
ruin the
resort.
Grand Floridian for me.
Because no, they won't. They're going to make it better with
They're
that.
gonna make a
walking. But
walkway.
Animal Kingdom
Then
is,
you're gonna make
is
me
buses
walk.
100%, unless you have the next one, a car.
Ah.
So, do you need a car? We answered this in our top 10 questions. You don't need a car, but
You don't need a car.
if you have a car, it's convenient.
If you are
will have to pay-
impatient,
yeah, you're gonna have to pay for parking unless you're a DVC member,
Yeah.
Disney Vacation Club.
if you are impatient or staying at a far resort, I might recommend it.
Car's not bad. I do like car. Or the next on our list, next best thing to a
Yeah.
car.
Uber/Lyft.
Yeah, rideshare services, Uber and Lyft, which is now, we've been, you know, with each stay, Uber and Lyft take more bus rides for us. And it's really only 12 to 14, maybe $15 to get from a hotel to
Yeah.
a park. So if you're, you know, if the bus is just getting crowded or it's hot or whatever the case may be, or the time keeps slipping at the bus stop, like we said, there's quite frequent that we'll just whip out the phones and get a lift there in 2 minutes. And, you know, we get to the park quickly. And up next is Disney's version of Uber and Lyft, launched a few years ago,
Ah.
the minivan.
Spelled MINNIE.
And you can't miss them. They're the Minnie Mouse polka dot vans that you see. I don't know, not really vans. They're more like little SUVs. But anyway,
I like them.
yeah,
They're
they're
mini.
good.
They're pretty.
I think they're run by Lyft, or they were at one point. Not sure if that's still the case, but they're basically Disney's own branded rideshare service, and they're more expensive than Uber and Lyft, and so I wouldn't recommend it unless.
But strollers.
Yeah, if you have luggage or strollers or something, they are all sort of SUV-ish van type vehicles. You know, you'll want it for that. Or if you just feel somehow safer in a Disney branded one, then you know, definitely you can hop on.
But if your
on a
kids are a
minivan.
little bit older and you don't really carry like big suitcases to the parks, I mean, I've never seen that, but I mean, if you do, that's totally okay.
And then finally on our list, the most recent addition,
Ah,
the SkyLiner.
yes.
I am torn on the SkyLiner. I'm not a fan
Share your
of the
thoughts.
SkyLiner. Well, so I've been on record before saying, you know, this one was a head scratcher for me ever since whoever conceived and built this.
Well,
I
I've
don't know
sort
why
of
they didn't
changed
build
my
monorails.
opinions. What I think it's a cool idea. I'm not sure how they are planning to properly execute it. That's my issue. It can break down very easily, and it can get
As we saw in
very
the early
hot,
days.
very, very hot if you're waiting in there for 3 hours in the burning Florida sun.
Yeah, this is my issue with them, I'll say. So first of all, I'll say anything that moves more people in a different way, I'm all for that. It's going to take some stress off the buses. In fact, a friend of mine, a Disney friend, told me that he heard the plan was to start reducing the number of buses and put
Really?
people on the Skyliner. I don't know if that's a great idea or not,
Really?
but it hopefully can take some load from buses. But
And
if you've been to Disney World in the summer
yeah,
and it's 120 degrees and there are thunder and lightning storms
and
every
you're not
afternoon,
carrying around bottles of water.
you know, I don't know their plan for this, and
That's
they
a
may get a
problem.
little break in this COVID summer because it's not going to be full capacity. I was really waiting to see how these Skyliner cars.
He was just waiting for them to fail.
Well, I'm just.
You
I
weren't
don't,
waiting to see how they
I'm
go.
going to go on the record and say, like, now, as you know, I've been traveling there since it opened every year, multiple times. I think personally, for me, this is the biggest blunder in Walt Disney World history, was building this Skyliner. There's a reason why the Skyway closed in the Magic Kingdom and
I'm
Disneyland.
not sure it's a
There
blunder.
are reasons why. Time will tell, but
I
I
think-
think they should have spent the money on monorails.
I'm not
personally,
sure it will
even though
work.
they cost a lot more.
But if it does work, I think it's very cool. I just think they need a bit better of an evacuation plan. And also, most of the time, you are with other people.
Yeah.
In your
So we'll
car
see
too.
what happens. Hopefully I'm proven wrong and they all work well. I mean, there are cities like Barcelona in Spain that has a cable car system essentially in the city like that.
Yeah.
But they're not meant to move the type of traffic that the SkyLiners are, including, a lot of young kids and families in the summer heat and all I say. But we'll see what happens with them. But nonetheless, for people in those resort areas, Riviera, Caribbean Beach, and the Epcot and Hollywood Studios, sure, it's another good option. And like I said, it is continuous moving theoretically.
And I do.
So that's a good thing.
And I just feel it wouldn't be too comfortable to be trapped in a little car with people you don't know.
We'll see with the SkyLiner. It is a hot button item for a lot of people. People love it. Probably, more people love it than don't love it. I mean, I don't. Like I said, I have not yet
formed an opinion.
I'm puzzled about that decision to build.
I'll say this. I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, we'll be watching it over time. So those are all the main methods of transport. And of course, there's trams in the parking lots, which get you from where you're parked to the gates. Sometimes, we're notorious for just missing the tram. And there was that one time.
I think everyone's notorious for just missing the tram.
One time in Hollywood Studios.
Oh, gosh.
We just missed the tram. And of course, you can walk. So we start walking. Well.
Really? Your favorite form of transportation, Daddy?
What?
Walking.
Yes.
Sure you wouldn't have rather been on the tram?
Well,
that
talk
was not
about
proper English.
Florida in August afternoon thunderstorms. That was the one time that the skies opened up right on cue, and there was nowhere to hide. In fact, there was a construction fence because they were building the SkyLiner, and it had that windbreak, and we were sort of cowering under that, but we were literally
cowering.
Well, hiding from the rain.
You were cowering. I like rain.
And I think that is the wettest I have ever been in my life without having been thrown in a pool with my clothes on. It was basically like we jumped into a pool with our clothes on. But
which I do. So
typical Florida. Florida summer day. An hour later, the skies were clear, and we did dry off fairly quick. I had those quick dry wicking shorts on, so that helped. But anyway, we've got monorail, boats, ferries, buses, walking, cars, Uber and Lyft, minivan, and SkyLiner. So there are a ton of ways to get around Walt Disney World, trams, and the Magical Express to get you there in the first place. So Disney's transportation network, on the whole, standing back without being a critic, is pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing what they've built there. There are many ways to get around. Choose what works best for you, given some of the things we've said. But also the main thing, I'm going to bring up, the planning is where this all comes together.
It's
right?
true.
And if you've never been before, get online to some Twitter people that you follow who know the parks and resorts and ask some ideas. Because even the most skilled visitors can get caught up, as we did that one time. If you're referring to you. You can. Like, anything can happen, especially if you have to use two methods to get where you're going.
Yeah, and here we go again about the Fort Wilderness Hoop-de-Doo show.
Yeah, we don't have to go through that whole story again, but it did take an hour and a half to get from the Grand Floridian to Fort Wilderness Landing, and it should not.
It
generally does not take that long, and nothing was broken. It was just the stars aligned in terms of backed up boats and monorails.
What I'd say is don't assume you're going to hit every green light.
Yes. Don't assume that you're going to get there in the shortest time. This is our tip. Assume that it's going to take 25 to 50% longer than you think it's going to take.
Yeah.
And you'll be safe. And that's when you're planning your itinerary from getting back to the parks and you have to get out to dinner somewhere. I want to throw in something here. A couple of transportation goodies from the past that are no longer there. And here's my hidden gem for this episode.
All right.
And you've seen this, remnants of it, and probably didn't even know. Did you know that Walt Disney World had its own airport on site?
And
the
why?
Stollport, short takeoff and landing. In fact.
Really?
Yeah, and the idea was...
Where do you fly? From Hollywood to Animal Kingdom in just 5 short minutes?
Listen, when I grew up, when I was landing in Orlando in the 70s, growing up Disney, and we would get off the plane at Orlando International. It's hard for you to imagine now, but you got off onto the tarmac. It was a tiny little airport, Orlando. I mean, Disney and everything else that followed has grown it into what it was today. But back in those days, it was just a little airfield. What it is today. What it is today. But the idea was that you'd land there and then you'd take a little commuter plane from the airport right to Disney World. One of those small prop planes that seats 20 people.
Ooh.
So short takeoff and landing. That was the Stollport. It was the Walt Disney World Airport. And it's still there. You can still see the runway. And The runway is on the Epcot monorail line. So when you get
That's
on,
actually kind of cool.
yeah, when you, I'll make a point of pointing it out to you next.
I mean, it might
visit.
be a little bit more trouble than a taxi, but
It's pretty neat though to see because it
it's
just looks
kinda
like a road, but you can see it's a runway. So when you get on the monorail at the Transportation Ticket Center and you're going to Epcot,
and then what do you do from that commuter thing? How do you get to your hotel?
well, then it's right by the TTC. That's where it is. So if
Oh.
you look on your left, if you look on the right, it's the main road coming in. But to your
that
left,
actually is pretty cool.
to the left of the forward motion is the old runway from the Stollport at Walt Disney World.
Oh, I thought it was like in the middle of nowhere.
No, it's not. It was right close to it was the Magic Kingdom Resort area because that was Walt Disney World in the 70s, right? And it ran until the early 80s. I think they shut it down in the early 80s for good. And the other one
That's actually pretty cool.
that it was near and dear to my heart was the Fort Wilderness Railroad. Again, sort of just a fun internal transportation network, but that ran from, I think, around 73 to
That's kinda
1980. Oh, I loved that as a kid. And I think last year, I searched out and asked some cast members and found the last remaining bit of track that you can actually,
that's
do you
what
remember?
were looking for?
That you can actually see. And
Of course, I knew that. I'm
yeah.
involved.
I got some pictures of that. So, yeah, the Walt Disney World Airport, the Fort Wilderness
Those are
Railroad.
really cool.
Two of my favorite blasts from the past in
Well,
transportation.
maybe when I'm old, you'll see an old remaining bus stop from the Disney buses.
Yeah. I don't think we'll look back fondly on the buses. I know I won't. You know, they're sort of utility. They're great. The only buses that really, really frustrate me are the ones to
Yeah.
Disney Springs.
But I mean, really, without the buses, think about it.
No, they're a huge
You
necessity.
complain about
yeah.
them, but without them,
Yeah. No, they're a necessity for
They're
a lot
not
of
perfect,
guests. They're
but
not perfect.
they're-
None of these are perfect, right?
they're not perfect, but they're definitely necessary and they're definitely helpful.
So all in all, as we start thinking of wrapping this up, let's say it's a pretty good transportation network. We're here, we're being hypercritical on purpose because, we're just pointing out the highs and lows of all of these things, the pros and cons, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But all in all, every single one of these things does its job and helps to even out the flow. So the real point is really consider how quickly you need to get somewhere and your own tolerance. See, I have a low tolerance for waiting. I am an impatient
good, you
person.
admit it.
Yes, I don't
I
wait.
didn't want to say anything.
I'm not
but,
waiting more than 15 minutes for any ride.
And this is
don't
coming-
like waiting for transportation.
And I mean, we complain, but this is also coming from very impatient people. So if you don't mind waiting 30
Yeah, if
minutes
you're
for
a
a bus
go-with-the-flow
that's at 10,
Disney
or if
traveler,
you're not rushing
that's
for
awesome.
a fast pass, then
Just chill, relax, stuff
I mean,
gets
the
there.
buses are fine.
It's
Oh,
really if you have kids and it's hot, right?
I also want to point out buses are freezing.
Buses, yeah. So if you like AC, those are
They're
probably
like sometimes I have to bring a sweater on the buses in the middle of July.
they're the coolest mode of
It's freezing.
transportation. That's one thing. Good point. So the
Yeah.
definite plus of a bus is
Everybody probably knows that.
you're
but
going to cool down the
the
most
plus
in
of a
bus.
Disney bus.
Yeah. That's where you're going to stay the coldest. So share with us your thoughts on Disney transportation, and we'd love to hear it. It's always good fun to debate all these things. Take your time planning. Reach out to, if you're a new listener or a new Disney traveler, talk to your friends who go a lot or online and get some good tips because it'll really help. It can help to make or break a vacation. You don't want the stress of being late because you didn't know how long it took to get somewhere. So ask around. Disney folks are always happy to help with their own opinions. And that's it for transportation. So this was a fun episode. Amelia came up with this topic, and I'm glad we did. I like it. Yeah, it was a good
My
one.
topic.
So we hope you enjoyed it too. It's fun to talk about transportation.
I hope it didn't bore you too much with the facts.
Yeah, and some couple of hidden gems you may not have known about. Look for that airport landing strip if you hadn't seen it before, and it's going to be all good fun. So thanks everyone for listening. We hope you have a great day. You can find us online at 1923mainstreet.com and 1923 Main Street pretty much on every social media network. And of course, we wish you all a very magical day.
Bye-bye.